6. What I'm trying to get across is why it is that in composite probabilities we simply multiply the distributions. In other words, the probability of left-handedness times the probability of right-handedness, or female, or gender, I should say, gives me the probability of getting a left-handed female. Are you with me? Now what that tells us to do then, with these 8 prophecies, I need to multiply these prophecies. The way I do that, I've done conveniently in powers of 10, and it's very simple to multiply them because I simply count the zeros. If I take 10 times 100, I just got 1,000. I just count the zeros. You follow me? So I have 10 with 28 zeros after it. Okay, that's the probability of one person fulfilling these 8 prophecies. But I got to divide that by the total population of the, that's involved. I'm going to assume it's about 10 to the 11th. So that gives me 10 to the 17th. 10 to the 28th divided by 10 to the 11th gives me 10 to the 17th. That's still a very big number. Now, if I was teaching a class in statistics and I wanted to get across to you, say, what is 1 chance in 100 mean, one way to do that is I could take a large bucket and put 100 silver dollars in it. I take one of the silver dollars and mark it with lipstick or with a nail polish or something, and shake that up so that it has an equal chance of being anywhere. And my chance of picking the marked one, if I reach in there blindfolded and pick one silver dollar, my chance of picking up the silver dollar that was marked is 1 chance in 100. That's what we mean by a probability of 1 in 100. I can demonstrate that by the bucket. Well, now I need a bucket that'll hold 10 to the 17th silver dollars to get this across. Well, where do I do? Well, let's take, where do I get a bucket of 10 to the 17th silver dollars? I take the state of Texas, and I fill it with silver dollars. And when it gets 2 feet deep, I've got about 10 to the 17th silver dollars. And so I send someone in there, blindfolded, in such circumstances that he has an equal chance of getting any particular silver dollar. And when he picks up the one, the chance that he got the marked one is 1 chance in 10 to the 17th. You with me? Well, I only took 8 prophecies out of 300. I've got 300 to choose from. Let me take another 8, but to save time, I won't go through an analysis. I'm going to stipulate that the next 8 are no less likely than the first 8. Now, that's a fiction because the next 8 will be more precise and more rare. But let's ignore that. Let's assume that the next 8 are no less likely than the ones I picked. I've got 300 to choose from. So the next 8 would be more specific, but we're going to ignore that factor. Assuming no decrease in likelihoods, I have 10 to the 28th times 10 to the 28th, that's 10 to the 56th, and again I got to divide by 10 to the 11th. So now I have 10 to the 45th to deal with. How do I get a silver dollar? What kind of a bucket do I need now? Well, it turns out that I need build a ball of silver dollars that's 30 times the distance from the earth to the sun. And that will give me 10 to the 45th silver dollars. I'm just trying to get across how huge, absurdly huge, these probabilities have come so far. Let's do this one more time. This time I won't double, I'll triple it. I'll go from 16 to 48. And again, I have 300 to choose from. And assuming no decrease in likelihoods, I now have 10 to the 28th 6 times. That's 10 to the 168. I got to divide that by 10 to the 11th again. So now I have 10 to the 157th to build up. To try to demonstrate a probability of 10 to the 157th, silver dollars won't work, they're too big. So I'm going to indulge in an imaginary element here. It's the smallest thing that you can imagine. Let's make it an atom. We're going to make a ball of atoms. Okay, I need to get to 10 to the 157th. How am I going to do this? Well, if I make a ball of atoms involving every atom in our galaxy, that's 10 to the 66th. You say, well, gee, I'm a long way from 10 to the 157th. That's right. I need to make such a ball for every atom in the universe. That's 10 to the 66th. I'm 10 to the 66th. Now I'm at 10 to the 132nd. I'm still a long way from 10 to the 157th. I'm already beyond our ability to imagine this in the first place. I'm going to repeat this whole exercise every second since the universe began, assuming a 16 billion year lifetime. And now I'm only at 10 to the 149th. I've still got a long way to go. 10 to the 149th versus 10 to the 157th. I am still short by 100 million times. Now, I've obviously, in running out this exercise, gotten to beyond our threshold of conceptual reach here. But I want to point out that I've only dealt with 48 of over 300 prophecies. What am I trying to get at? I'm convinced that Jesus Christ was the Messiah of Israel. I'm more confident in that fact than I am my own name, my own existence. And I've incidentally skipped some of the most amazing of them. His detailed genealogy, the specific prediction of the precise day that the Messiah would present himself as king to Jerusalem, the Old Testament Midrashic prophecies, and a lot of others. Let me just pick one to give you a flavor of this. In Daniel chapter 9, Gabriel tells Daniel that from the commandment to restore to build Jerusalem, which is yet future to Daniel, unto the Mashiach Nagid, this is 5 centuries before the fact. Gabriel told Daniel that from the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem to the Messiah the King would be a particular period of time. This is recorded in the Septuagint, 3 centuries before Christ was born, 300 years before the event. Gabriel told Daniel that it would be, in effect, 173,880 days from that commandment to the Messiah being presented himself as king. Well, that commandment, we know, is the decree of Artaxerxes Longimanus, March 14th of 445 BC. And the only time that Jesus allowed himself to be presented as a king is when he rode that donkey into Jerusalem in the event that we call the Triumphal Entry. And we're indebted to Sir Robert Anderson, who was knighted, head of Scotland Yard, whose landmark work in 1894 unveiled all of this to us. But if you go through the arithmetic of the calendars, from 445 BC to 32 AD, remember there's no year zero, 173,740. From March 14th to April 6th is 24 days, and you correct for leap years, 116. I want you to notice that Gabriel's announcement was precise to the very day, 5 centuries before the event. Astonishing passage that there's just no way you can, with intellectual integrity, attribute this to random chance or accident. This message came from outside the dimensionality of time, from the Creator himself. The return of Christ to rule. There's over 1,800 references in the Old Testament. Christ is going to return to rule the planet Earth. 17 books give prominence to the event in the Old Testament. There are 318 references in the New Testament, and 216 chapters make 23 of the 27 books give prominence to the event. For every prophecy of Christ's first coming that we've detailed, there are 8, or 7, more than 7 anyway, of his second coming. So our challenge, this is the challenge. If you accept this challenge, you flunk the course. I'm going to suggest to you a premise that I hope you will challenge. I believe that you and I are being plunged into a period of time about which the Bible says more than it does any other period of time in human history, including the time that Jesus walked the shores of Galilee or climbed the mountains of Judea. Now, that's a preposterous statement, that you and I are moving into a period of time about which the Bible says more than it does even of the gospel period. Now, how do you challenge that statement? You have to do 2 things. You have to find out what the Bible really says, not what Chuck Missler says or whoever is your favorite radio preacher or whatever. Find out yourself what the Bible really says. The second thing you need to do is find out what's really going on. And you won't on the 10 o'clock news. You need to do a little homework to find out what's really going on in the Middle East, in Europe, in China, in the technologies, in the churches, in the tides in government and so forth. We monitor in our institute, according to the institute, we monitor a number of strategic trends. The struggle for Jerusalem, that's a category of intelligence gathering by every major intelligence agency on the planet Earth. The impending Magog invasion of the Middle East. The rise of Europe as a superstate. The rise of Asia, especially China. The movement towards a global government. The movement in religion for an ecumenical religion to fit everyone. The biotechnology and the advent of global pestilence. The decline of the United States as a major factor on the world scene. And the weapons of mass destruction and their proliferation throughout the world. These are just a few. They all have biblical relevance. They're all areas that you can do some research on. And you can, it's not as if there's one of these that's important. They all are converging on the classic biblical scenario that the Bible has said all along. Now, our epistemological approach that we've taken here is to first establish the integrity of design of the Scriptures itself. You don't have to wade through ancient manuscripts to do that. All you have to do is study the Bible. It's in your lap, and to discover that there are idioms in the Old Testament that make no sense except to the extent they're fulfilled in the New. Moses raises a brazen serpent in the wilderness on occasion. That makes no sense at all until you get to the New Testament. A brass serpent, they're all supposed to look at the hill, until Jesus explains it in John 3. As Moses